transfer on. We must start with the news that Luis Diaz is looking very close to Bayern Munich, who've agreed a €75 million fee for the player. Liverpool giving the Colombian permission to travel to complete the move, and that would make him the third most expensive Bayern Munich transfer after Harry Kane and Lucas Hernandez, ahead of Matthijs de Ligt and Michael Olise when you take a look at their most expensive transfers. Julien Laurent is with us, but let me start with you, Ale, because we've heard Bayern in the mix for a number of wingers. A number of wingers have been linked to them. Luis Diaz, it seems, is the man. Is he the best of the bunch of what they could have had?
Well, first of all, let me just address that list there. Lucas Hernandez and Matthijs de Ligt were that expensive? Good Lord. Good Lord. As it pertains to Bayern Munich, it seemed really for most of this summer that it was going to be a negative summer for Bayern Munich, where they were overlooked and really sort of looked down upon by those that made the decisions to go elsewhere. Specifically, Florian Wirtz, for example, that said, yeah, I could go to Munich, but I prefer to go to Liverpool. And then Nico Williams, I don't know whether that was a real possibility for Bayern Munich or not, but they were part of the discussion. Whether it was a realistic part of the discussion, I don't know. But regardless, it wasn't Barcelona for Nico Williams. It was back to Athletic Club Bilbao, not so much Bayern Munich. And so you're looking around, and then there's the injury to Jamal Musiala in the Club World Cup. And now it's back to depending on the inconsistencies of Serge Gnabry and Kingsley Coman, and Thomas Müller has gone elsewhere now. And it's kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? And out of nowhere, this Luis Diaz situation falls right into the lap and into the interest of Bayern Munich, and everything works out for Bayern Munich. Because I must say, I'll add another name, Rodrigo as well, who was discussed potentially going to Bayern Munich. Of all those names that I just mentioned, Luis Diaz is a really good fit for Bayern Munich, what they are and what they want out of that position coming from the left-hand side. And in the personality that this team now has with Vincent Kompany, one of the things that they want to do and that he wants to do is to press higher up the field. And who does that naturally? Luis Diaz. Hard worker, tireless worker defensively, and a guy who offensively is also productive and can create for himself and for others. So for all the negativity that was surrounding Bayern Munich, I think now things have turned very much in the positive. And you see a Bayern Munich team that could just turn around and say, we had it all the way. Luis Diaz was our guy, and he's going to work out quite well for us. I think things have been lined up perfectly for Bayern Munich in being able to, after all, settle and actually find a guy who I think is going to be really important for them in Luis Diaz.
Yes, perfect segue lining up, because Jules, we have asked him to put together a starting 11 for Bayern with Luis Diaz in that 11. He'll be slotting straight in here, Jules. You'd want to hope so for that amount of money anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt that he's coming to start, and we've put him on that left-hand side in the 4-2-3-1 that Vincent Kompany usually plays. At Bayern, there's still pieces missing clearly in this jigsaw. I mean, to start with the left-back position, Alphonso Davies is injured, so it could be Stanisic, it could be Guerrero. Even in that number 10 position, now that Thomas Müller is gone and Musiala is injured for a long time, we put Gnabry there because that's who replaced Musiala at halftime of that PSG game in the Club World Cup when Musiala got injured. But either it's another signing or Vincent Kompany does something different, could put, I guess, maybe Michael Olise there like he does for France, and move another winger on the right and Diaz on the left. There's a few things, or they sign another player, because I still think they are one man short with that long-term injury for Musiala in those attacking positions behind Kane. And to be fair, even as a Kane replacement, we don't really have anybody right now for Bayern Munich, so they're hoping that nothing happens to Kane. But this is probably what they could start the season with right now.
Yes, absolutely. Shaka, when it comes to the Champions League, you might be surprised, you might not, to see that Bayern are 7th in the list of favourites right now. Obviously, it's going to be a very strong Champions League campaign next year if you're to look at it, and the teams who've strengthened. And you do look at this list with PSG, Liverpool, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Arsenal and Manchester City ahead of them. Does Luis Diaz coming in lift them any higher than those teams ahead of them?
Not than those teams ahead of them as we sit right now. And while I'm sitting with Ali and Jules, I think the Luis Diaz signing is a very good one for Bayern Munich. One, certainly needed, especially once Leroy Sané moves on. But when you look at that list, you understand why the top 6 are there. Now, we could debate whether that order is entirely right, but I don't put Bayern ahead of any of those 6. And one of them being, and Jules touched on it, is about squad depth. And while they have certainly numbers through midfield, now have numbers wide, Harry Kane goes down. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how Bayern Munich cope with that. You could probably say the same around about Erling Haaland in Manchester City. You saw the impact that the Rodri injury had on them and their ambitions last season. But as we sit right now, that's, well, certainly Bayern Munich's position is a fair one.